Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Healing Journal, where I'm sharing my healing journey in real time. Today is a better day. So I wanted to start out with, how we can be a good human being and not fall into the trap of living in a very hateful world. Being in the public eye, I've been in many situations where I've had to keep my cool, and sometimes I have not. Again, because I'm somebody who likes to fight for what's right. I like to stand up for the right things, and at least when it's appropriate. And sometimes it can get confusing when it's appropriate to do this, because otherwise you can find yourself just constantly battling everything, because we live in a world that's filled with so much hate. We also live in a world filled with so much love. And what I find is, as much as you want to just, give somebody a piece of your mind, I've learned that there are times when that is appropriate. Definitely. I've also learned in certain situations that it is more effective when you focus on the good and the love, because if you do that, I know this sort of sounds like an eye-rolling statement to anybody who might be in the midst of getting caught up in hatred right now, but hang with me here. I promise this works. When you focus on what you want and what you want more of, it gives less of the spotlight to things that are hurting you. And this might sound like a contradiction to a lot of the things I talk about in my videos, because I just yesterday was telling you how I was looking at the things: hatred, abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, cheating, all of these things that I was experiencing. But I had to do that for my own trauma, okay? And I had to go through that so that I can kind of clear those emotional skeletons out of my closet. What I'm talking about today is the actions of others that maybe, whether they're in our life or not, a lot of times, and let me just say this before I go any further, if you are in a dangerous situation, please don't do what I did and stay. Please get yourself out of there. And please don't ever feel bad if you need to call authorities to help you. There were instances where my life was threatened, I had to call authorities. There were instances where I felt unsafe and I needed to call for help, because either I didn't have a car to get out, or the situation was not allowing me to get out, and I was backed into a corner. If this is a situation where you are unsafe, either get out, call a friend, or call the authorities. Just don't prolong the process if you are unsafe. Please don't make the grave mistake that I've made that has put me in terrible situations. Okay, I just want to put that out there, because in those situations, of course, you can focus on love, but sometimes if you do that like I did to a fault, sometimes that gets you in really hot water. So now that we got that out of the way. But if you're in a situation where you have control of your surroundings, right? And you're in a safe place. So for example, let's say today, maybe you saw something on the news, or maybe a friend of yours is not necessarily being the friend you think they should be, okay? Focus on the things that you want more of. So instead of getting upset at this, either just turn off the news. I don't watch the news. I try not to. And I figure if I really need to know something, I'm gonna know about it pretty soon, the way that our world works these days. So instead of focusing on the hatred and then going on social media and typing about hatred, a lot of times you're going to, I know it doesn't seem that effective, but it feels so much better, and it is effective when you wrap around with the answer of being basically the opposite of hatred. So it's like, have you ever felt like people are trying to pull you into their storm? Okay, maybe one of your friends is not being a good friend. Don't join them. Don't be a bad friend back to them just because they're being a bad friend to you. You can either treat that with silence, which is communication, and sometimes that is healthy, or you can just be your loving self. And for me, recently, through all the things I've been through, I've tried my best to own my mistakes, but still set boundaries and still be loving. I don't have any desire to change my character just because someone else is upsetting me or has changed their character. But what that can mean is that person doesn't necessarily have access to me anymore. Now, that can be a temporary thing. And you can do this with all kinds of things, including what goes on the TV. This goes back to one of my videos where I talk about input, output, and what are you allowing in, and what are you watching? What are you listening to? that's going to change the way that you feel. So be very mindful of this. I'm not saying turn your cheek. I'm not saying to be in denial. What I'm saying is be aware of it and then don't stay in that state of anger and don't join the hatred. I used this analogy a couple videos back where I talk about the level of life almost being like levels of video games, right? And so I was hanging around people who were throwing fireballs at me and still getting burned and still hanging out with them on that like lower level, right? So this person might be, throwing verbally abusive things. They might be physically abusive. All this stuff is not okay. Stop hanging out with it and stop justifying the behavior. It's just simply not okay. It's just not okay. And then what happens if you stay with the hatred? Then you start becoming what you are around, okay? And this is proven by and backed by science. You are the people that you surround yourself with. So if you're at work and all these people are having problems with their families and their kids and they're just constantly complaining, what's going to happen? You are going to eventually do that unless you build this shield and you're very mindful about not joining them. It's nearly impossible to do if you haven't emotionally regulated yourself, for one, and you don't stay on top of this, for two. Okay? So again, and by the way, if you go to work and all these people are being negative, they're not going to want to hear that everything's great at your house. They just aren't. So what are you going to do to fit in? You're going to start finding things to complain about. I have experienced this firsthand on both ends of that spectrum, and I can assure you it's unhealthy behavior. Just go back into your own healthy zone. Try to stay grounded like a mountain instead of whirling around in these people's chaos and the wind. Try not to lose yourself in this process because it's so important. And I think that in controversial world affairs, especially, we can lose sight of this. You have to remember that we have to go back to our value system in every situation in our life. So, once you know what you don't want, then you know what you do want, right? So let's focus on what you do want. So I want to make a couple points here. Point number one, other people's opinions are not your truth, okay? They're not your truth. That's their opinion. That's their behavior. That is not your truth unless you allow it to be. Other people's words reflect more about them than you. So if somebody's coming into your space and calling you names, I've been called fat, I've been called a slut, a skank, a cunt, I've been called a lunatic, I've been called crazy, I've been called a bitch multiple times by specifically one person that I thought loved me the most, okay? I've even been called these things by a person that gave me life to be on this planet, okay? Even though I know for a fact that person loves me, okay? That doesn't make this okay. It also doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it true. And they know your buttons and they're gonna press. You have to stay tall and firm on that mountain. Don't get caught in their windy chaos. So instead of reacting to what you're seeing on the news or what you're hearing from people around you, view their words as noises passing by. Let them pass by. Because if you internalize this, it's gonna feel very uncomfortable very quickly. And then the rumination starts and you start thinking of this thought over and over again about what this person said, whether it was directed towards you or not. If it made you feel that icky feeling, don't let it sit in you for very long or you're going to become with it, okay? Negativity and nastiness and manipulation wants you to join it. Remember what I've said. The truth does not require your participation. Lies do. So if you feel uncomfortable, it's a lie to you. Why? Because it's not aligning with your core value system. That's the best way I can describe it right now, into going, how do I make sense of this? And don't think for a second that if you're not out there fighting, okay, that you're not doing something. Because I promise you, you're doing more by, I'm not saying don't stand for what you believe in, but if you back that up with the change that you wish to see, and I know that some of you are rolling your eyes right now, like, be the change you wish to see. But guess what? It's true. It's just true. And it's very powerful. And I think that if more of us did this, we would really see a huge change in society. Mastering emotional neutrality is really important. I am still learning this because I can be a firecracker. And no, I don't start things, but man, I really liked to get my word in and prove my point. Because if I didn't agree, and I'm not talking necessarily about anything other than just basic moral compass, okay? of what I think is right and wrong, okay? Sometimes it's just best to shut up. Pause. There's power in pausing, okay? And there's power in a pause no matter what you're doing, whether it's in a conversation or it's before you react. And even in songwriting, one of my favorite co-writers, Richie Supa, taught me it's about that pause in between the lyrics sometimes. Why? Because it gives it room to breathe. And I remember we were in this writing session writing one of my songs called Where You Are. And I remember I just started crying in this writing session because it was just such a beautiful melody. And I was sort of rushing through, and Richie said, no, wait, stop. It's that space, it's that pause, otherwise you won't cry. And what he means by this is it allows you to understand what is that I'm feeling and why. And sometimes this is good and sometimes this is bad, okay? It gives me chills. But I'm serious, this stuff is so important. I wish this is the stuff they taught to kids in school. Because a lot of times, especially for me, it's like my mind's going way faster than my physical body. And I know that a lot of you can relate to this. And so really think this through. And if you drink a lot of caffeine or you're on stimulants or some kind of stimulant, if you are someone who drinks caffeine or you're on medication that can alter, like how quickly you go, reel it in. And if you can't, then maybe cut back on those things because it's really important, okay? And of course, some of these things help with focus, right? But you're gonna be surprised at how quickly you're gonna just blurt something out. And even if you're right, that doesn't mean that you're keeping the peace, okay? What is more important to you, keeping the peace or being right? And there's a way to do both, but you have to trust that everything's gonna work out. You don't have to fix everything. Take it from somebody who's in healing for trying to fix the problems and fix things that were not in my control. So what happens if you see an animal that's injured, right? In the wild, let's say, or even a domesticated animal, and you go to try to help it, a lot of times that animal's gonna come at you, right? Right, Truffles? So what should you do? Well, you should probably gently leave it and have the right help come. But just remember that reaction, even though you're right to help this animal doesn't know that, and this animal isn't ready for that, okay? And if you're not equipped and prepared specifically to help this specific animal, like a professional that you should probably call first, chances are there's gonna be a problem, another problem, and it could even worsen that animal's injury. It's just a metaphor, but something I could give you. So when you're facing hate, I know that this is a tough one, but you have to ask yourself, is this gonna matter in a year? And a lot of times I found myself saying, yes, of course, because I would think, well, of course, because then it's this, and then there's this, and then it's this. Okay, but what should matter more is that peace for you, okay? So don't get caught up in that hatred web. It doesn't mean you're not standing up for what's right, but there's ways to do this if you think it out properly, right? So instead of writing all these songs, right, about my specific situation that I've recently been going through, well, there's multiple, but I don't want to sing about that stuff. It's too dark. It's bad. It's really bad. And, I keep finding myself going, oh my gosh, this is like a Lifetime movie on a rainy day. Nearly was Unsolved Mysteries. That is not the stuff I want to sing about. Other people can, if that's what they want to do. But for me, that's not my thing. So you cannot control how other people treat you, but you can control your response and your reaction. I know what it feels like to try to hold myself together and still be poke. Somebody's poking me again and pushing me, forcing me to react, so much so that if I'm pushed to the floor, right, and I'm just doing whatever I can to get them off of me, and then they spin that around, that's when you know that you've stayed too long, okay? Things like that should not be happening. So you really have to emphasize the importance of your energy. You have to preserve this or you will run out of battery life. And reacting to hate drains our energy, which drains creativity. I wasn't very creative for the last 3 years of my life. Why is that? Why is that? And I started to notice this because I was very creative 3 years ago. And then it started to dim and I couldn't figure out why. Well, now I know why. because I was reacting, trying to fix, trying to help somebody that told me they needed help. They played the victim. I fell for it. I went in and did my swooping and fixing and, backed this person up without even questioning if maybe this stranger was lying to me. Come to find out, they were full of lies. Okay, these are the types of people who cheat on their wives and they don't tell you about it. And then they propose to you without telling you any of the real truth. Okay, this type of stuff is hatred. This is manipulation. This is stuff that I know you and I don't want to be a part of. And if you're somebody watching this video and you are one of those people that does this, bye. Bye-bye. There's a lot of hatred coming from people who are making fun of these videos that I'm making, okay? Thinking it's funny. Guess what? I don't care. You still watching? Hi, how are you doing? Don't you have something better to do? All right, just saying. Just saying. Okay, so you don't have to give that your energy. And I used to be worried about things like this. I'm not worried anymore because I've mastered this. I'm practicing this. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have bad days. Sometimes, even when I think I've mastered it, I have my moments, right? Yesterday, that was not the video I wanted to make. What happened? I got wrapped up in hatred. Why? Well, in that instance, I had to do that. I did that in the safety of a safe space that I've been forced to find, by the way, to avoid violence, okay? And I have put myself in a place where I can do this safely, but I don't let it dictate everything about what I'm doing. Don't think for a second that I didn't want to do things that you see in the movies, of course, like people, but again, where's that gonna get you? It's not gonna get you very far, and it might feel good, but get it out in a different way, right? So get it out in a different way. For me, it's a healing recovery journey, and I'm learning that this is definitely way more my style. And my reactive old school ways were something that I was taught in my childhood and I didn't even realize it. Okay? So get control of your reactions. And if you don't want to be a part of something and you're getting uncomfortable around a conversation, just be quiet. Just be quiet. Don't even waste your energy because you're not going to change these people with what you say. You just aren't. Okay? More than likely. Okay? You're not going to convince people that are having that tight grip, and you don't know necessarily what's causing them to hold that tight grip without all that hatred. So let them do that. Let them do that over there. Don't hang out with these people at that level of the video game. Just let them do their thing because you are on a different flying disc. You are on a different level of the video game. Stop hanging out on levels that you've already passed through. Okay? So next time you face negativity or hatred, pause, breathe. Remember, in through the nose for 7 seconds, hold it at the top of your head for 3, and let it out with your mouth till it goes all the way, okay? Do that, or you can do the box breathing like I've always told you guys in other videos. You're gonna in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4 through the mouth, and hold for 4. That's box breathing. Choose to stay in your own peace. I promise. It's a lot better. And those moments will pass. This is all temporary, okay? You have to create your own reality. I know it sounds a little esoteric, but it's real. And the more you do this, the more impactful you're gonna be, and the more you're gonna attract other people that are on your same level of that video game. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me after putting these videos out, which I was really apprehensive about, but I had to own my truth because I knew that if I was gonna get on stage, people might notice that I'm just maybe not quite the same just yet. And I didn't want to have to explain this over and over and over and over again. And I also wanted to share the true healing journey that I'm going through, which is the whole purpose of these videos that you can come back and watch at any time for the rest of, I guess, the internet's existence, because I'm going to leave them on my channel for everybody to find. And I just want to take this time to thank you. Thank you. I've noticed that my channel is growing and I'm getting a lot more subscribers. And I never imagined I would be growing my YouTube channel and my social media channels through a healing recovery digital journal. But this video diary has definitely brought the right people into my circle. And at a time where I was trying to dodge a lot of hatred, I really was, and I wasn't sure who to trust anymore, and I was very confused and I was very hurt. And I can't be more grateful for all of you. Thank you so much. And don't forget that you're not alone. If you're feeling alone or you're confused, just take a little bit of time for yourself, pause, and don't fall into those nasty holes of hatred. It's not worth it. Okay? I hope that helps you today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.